Hello my friends and welcome back. On the 4th of January, so 4 days ago, there was an attack on Crimean airbase, Russian-occupied Crimean Saki airbase, and it was incredibly accurate. So accurate, I couldn't believe it. Look at this photo and you can see the coordinates right here actually. This is part of the Saki airbase. It's a warehouse area for Russian military and aviation assets in the area, in the airbase. And as you can see, these three hangars or halls, however you call them, look at these explosion markings right here. I'm pretty sure that's what they set the target to for the storm shadow that attacked it, and it landed immediately. It landed exactly where it was supposed to. Direct hits on these buildings and also these hits right here. Why am I talking about this attack? It's 4 days old. Well, because after this attack, rumors started to spread that the chief of staff of the armed forces of Russia, Gerasimov, or Gerasimov actually is the right way to say it, is dead because of this attack. Now, these prompted many memes, of course, and I have had 4 days of pure pleasure of watching these memes of Gerasimov being, dead, or Prigozhin yelling, "Shoigu, where is Gerasimov?" I've had my fun, but unfortunately I have to address the reality here, and let's look if he's really dead and what really happened. The airbase is located on the northern central part of Crimea. You can see it on the map right here. We'll go through a timeline now, what exactly happened on January the 4th. Almost minute by minute, because these things are important. If we talk about the potential death of Gerasimov, the chief of staff of the armed forces of Russia, we gotta know exactly what happened. So after this video, you'll know exactly. On January 4th, 2024, a large-scale attack on the territory of Crimea was carried out. At lunchtime, due to the activity of the armed forces of Ukraine, tactical aviation, the signal aviation alert was announced on the territory of Crimea. At 5 p.m., information about the approach of 10 cruise missiles to the airspace of the peninsula began to arrive. And now we have reports that Ukraine used storm shadows, and interesting fact about storm shadows is that Ukraine doesn't have that many of them and they are extremely expensive. So whenever Ukraine fires these missiles, they do fire decoy missiles before to soak up the Russian air defense missiles. And they did so this time also. 12 minutes past 5 p.m. a strike was made against an object in the territory of the settlement of Uyutne near Yevpatoria. The target was a radar unit of the 31st Air Defense Division of the Russian Air Force. As a result of the strike, the radar station and the communication center were destroyed. There are serious problems with the ability to conduct radar reconnaissance in the region. 3 wounded conscript soldiers are reported. Since Russia projects its force, naval, let's call it wannabe supremacy to the Black Sea through Crimea, then you can tell Crimea is extremely filled, saturated with radar stations and mobile radars. And also, Crimea is supposed to be extremely saturated with air defense capabilities, but Ukraine has very slowly grinded that down. They have haunted Russian air defense systems in Crimea for the last year. And now there are significant gaps in the Russian air defense bubble in Crimea, allowing Ukraine to strike military air bases, radar stations, port of Sevastopol, for example. And this is what we're seeing here. But you would be wrong to assume that this is the end of it. No, the day continues, and only 6 minutes later, at 18 minutes past 5 p.m., a strike was conducted on a facility in the city of Sevastopol. The target was a protected command post of the 31st Air Defense Division of the Russian Air Force. As a result of the strike, 12 servicemen of the Russian armed forces were killed and 9 others were wounded. In total, more than 80 servicemen of the division were under the rubble. Not all KIA, mostly wounded. Among the list of the dead, there is 1 serviceman with the rank of general. And from this, we know it's the rank of general. From this, the rumors started that Valery Gerasimov is deceased, sent to sleep with the fishes. However, his name is not specified. Also, the death of a commander of the 3rd Radiotechnical Regiment of the Russian Air Force has been confirmed. As a consequence of the strike, the division's communication center was destroyed. And this attack was carried out by only 2 Storm Shadow missiles following the decoys sent before. And you would be again wrong to assume that this was the end of it. Now we have potential rumors of Gerasimov being dead, although he's not, let me claim this. But now 30 minutes past 11 p.m. at night, there was a UAV attack on the territory of Pervomaisky and Saksky districts. About 35 attack drones are reported to have been used. Now, we have 2 different Storm Shadow attacks in Crimea during that day, 4th of January, and at the end, 11:30 p.m. Russians think, okay, it's finally over, and boom, Ukraine sends 35 attack drones, kamikaze drones, into the area. Unfortunately though, we do have data that these 35 drones, that most of them were brought down by Russian jamming. So this was the attack they actually managed to repulse with their anti-drone capabilities or jamming units. I hate to admit it, but Russians do have a very decent jamming capability in Crimea. On the night of the 5th to 6th of January, so about 24 hours later, there was a strike at the airfield of Saki. It is reported that the command post of the 43rd Separate Naval Assault Aviation Regiment, that's a mouthful, was hit. As a consequence of the strike, 4 servicemen of the regiment were KIA. Again, the strike was carried out by a Storm Shadow. So, if you are a soldier stationed in Crimea, you are not in the Special Military Operations Zone, meaning you don't get the higher wages, but your military base is struck with drones and Storm Shadows almost weekly in this war, so you have even a higher percentage of getting killed or wounded, and you're not getting paid for it. It's actually a true issue in the Russian army. Let's take Belgorod, for example. 30 kilometers from the Ukrainian border, fully in Russia, not a special military operation zone. But Ukraine strikes Belgorod weekly, the military assets in the area, meaning the soldiers do have an increased risk of getting presents from the Ukrainians, and they don't get extra pay from the Russian Ministry of Defense for it. This is a huge issue. Soldiers don't like this at all, but that's how it is. My friends, now we'll watch a video which is just an eye candy. It's the 5th Assault Brigade of the Armed Forces of Ukraine, and they have a Browning. What's special about a Browning machine gun? Well, nothing. It's just beautiful and big, and it's a 50 cal. But a Browning machine gun with remote control trigger system, that is something else. Manning these Browning positions on the front is very dangerous because you're a high value target immediately. Every tank, every infantry fighting vehicle and every glide bomb will try to hit your position. Now, for Ukraine, the most important thing is manpower. Quite the opposite for the Russians, but for Ukrainians it's true. So, putting this remote control trigger system is extremely valuable. You save your manpower and you eliminate the stress and fog of war in a person's mind. If you're manning this Browning system, there are infantry fighting vehicles coming your way. There's panic, there's fear, there's stress, there's shaky hands. You might not be able to aim good. If this all is eliminated and a guy from a safe distance is operating this weapon from a distance, there is no retreating, there is no fear in that direct sense, there is no shaky hands, the aim is more steadier. There are many pluses to this system. And I do hope to see this in more common in the armed forces of Ukraine. And it looks pretty futuristic. My friends, look at this picture. Now, this is the port of Sevastopol, Russian-occupied Crimea. This is supposed to be the headquarters of the Russian Black Sea Fleet. But because Ukraine has been able to attack Russian Black Sea Fleet vessels with their marine drones so effectively, Russians pulled most of their vessels out of this port and are keeping them in the eastern part of the Black Sea where Ukrainian drones don't reach. The port of Sevastopol is mostly empty from the most valuable Russian Black Sea Fleet assets. But now it changed 2 days ago. We got a new satellite imagery. I'll read you the report. Russia has installed its newest large landing ship, the Pyotr Morkunov, into the bay of temporarily occupied Sevastopol. A satellite imagery dated January 6th shows a Ivan Gren type, Project 11711, large landing ship near the pier in Sevastopol Bay. Pyotr Morgunov is the newest Russian landing ship. It was put to work on December 23, 2020. So this is, ships take years to build sometimes. This is extremely new in ship terms. The ship is serviced by a 100-man crew, has a total displacement of 6,600 tons and can transport a reinforced battalion of Marines, approximately 300 men, 13 tanks or 36 infantry fighting vehicles ready for pontoon landing. So it is a Russian Black Sea capability to export or project their armored power into the land around the Black Sea. This ship can transport 13 tanks or 36 infantry fighter vehicles, which can immediately roll out to the mainland and do the Russian-style blitzkrieg of using meat assaults or armor assaults. And it can go back and forth, reinforcing the area they attack. So taking these ships out is the main goal. Now, a month ago, Ukraine destroyed one of these landing ships, and it's a huge loss for the Russians because the cost of this ship is about 160 million USD. What is weird about these new landing ships and the fact that Ukraine actually 1 month ago destroyed one of these same class ships is that they are equipped with AK-630M2 twin 30mm AK-630M2 machine guns. And now, if you don't know what that means, I don't blame you. It's just codes and letters. But if I say Sea-Whiz or Sea-Ram, perhaps that rings some bells. Now, my friends, I'll watch this video to refreshen your memory. This is what Russian ships are protected by. This is their main protection system against sea drones, air drones, small boats, big boats, everything. This is the main protection layer. Do you see that 30mm, dual barrels? That was what, about 500 shots right there. It's about, I don't know how many shots per second, but a lot. I know how much Sea-Whiz is, and it's supposed to be the Russian version of it. It's a terrifying weapon. It's a very effective weapon, but this leaves me to wonder how come Ukrainian marine drones were able to sink a Russian landing ship. This was one of the newest landing ships they sank a month ago, which was equipped with a AK-630, let's call it Russian Sea-Whiz system. These dual-barrel miniguns, let's call them that, are made to counter these sea drones. And still, the ship sunk. So, like most Russian production, the video and photo of it looks much more deadlier and cooler and efficient than it really is, because it's made in Russia and doesn't probably work properly. My friends, 2022 summer, the war had been going on for 6 months already from December or, October, September 2022. The Russian Gazprom made a video and Putin was claiming it also at the time that Europe will freeze. Gas and oil prices were at an all-time high. And nobody knew what's going to happen to Europe's gas vaults in the winter. Now, 1 year later, we have minus 30 Celsius in Russia right now. I'm talking about yesterday and today. And it's a serious issue with heating. Minus 30 in Europe and in Russia, it's bad in both ways. In Europe also, there's going to be issues with heating. Some apartments are colder a little bit. But in Europe, if any kind of tubes are frozen shut or frozen broken, because that's what happens if these water tubes underground freeze because it's so cold, they break the tube because the water expands, right? In Europe, they fix it fast because we have working infrastructure for it. We have working systems to immediately isolate the break area, dig up the ground, fix it, seal it all up. In Russia, that doesn't really exist. So minus 30, a lot of stuff goes wrong. I'll read you a report. Accidents at utility companies are systematic and the Russian authorities can't handle them. Residents of the Moscow region, city of Klimovsk, have not had access to the heat and hot water for the third day in 20-degree frost. It's minus 20 Celsius. Do the Fahrenheit yourself, but it's insanely cold. Because of the rupture at the utility plant due to a break of the heating main, pipeline on January 4th. Now this happens in Europe also. The only difference is, as I mentioned, that in Europe they fix it immediately, otherwise people will literally freeze to death, because if the heating breaks in a panelka, 5-story Russian panel building, it's all one huge pipe that puts the hot water into the building. None of the apartments gets the heat, and it's minus 20 degrees Celsius outside. This will be the same temperature inside. This is the temperature where a person freezes. 1 to 2 days, even when they're with jackets or anything, they gotta start a fire in the living room or they will die. Residents are posting photos of burst heating radiators and pipes in their apartments and entrances. So apparently there is no talk of eliminating the consequences of the accidents in the near future. And again, I'll say it for the third time, and I'm sorry to sound like a broken record, the very same thing happens in the European Union. The only difference is they fix it fast in the European Union. Now what happens with this extreme heat? I will show you a heating system that is common in most of the ex-Soviet countries and in Russia right now. It's the most common heating way for most people in Eastern Europe. This is what we call radiator in English, right? It's just a central heating system in panelkas, panel-style buildings. Right here is hot water going through this metal thing which heats the room. Now, with this extreme cold, they crack and break, basically eliminating breaking the heating system. If there is a crack there, you cannot pump hot water into it, it will leak onto your, floors, or most of them also work with hot oil. It's a weird system. Well, they're broken, meaning no heat for the apartment, which means you can freeze to death in modern day Russia. It is actually possible. With minus 20 Celsius and no heating, you gotta fight for survival. It's not unpleasant, it's deadly. Now this is a bonfire in a residential area in modern day Moscow right now. A bonfire to get heating. They're burning their furniture, as you can see. It happens right now. It's not propaganda. It's really happening. It's a reality. Since Putin is putting 1 billion USD per day on this war, the heating is a secondary issue for him. Now to show you what a minus 20 Celsius looks like inside the hallways on one of these panelkas, this is it. Everything freezes, the vapor in the air freezes to the walls, and I've seen it happen. I've seen some of these mistakes. In Europe this happens and they fix it and it's defrosted and it's fine. But when this goes on for a week, 2 weeks, you have casualties. You really do have casualties. This is where people live in modern day Russia. Not most of the people, but a certain minority where these things are not fixed have to deal with this stuff. And these windows here are a very Soviet style. They were mass produced in the Soviet Union. In Estonia, most of these are replaced because we don't like them. But in Russia, very common sight. You see these windows, it's 70s, 80s panelka from the Brezhnev or Gorbachev era. And look at this. This is a modern plastic window, probably produced already after 91 in Russia. It's plastic, all frozen. All frozen, inside, outside, everything is frozen. Water is leaking because the pipes are ruptured and cracked and they're metal pipes. Yeah. It's, as the Russians call it, it's baradak, koshmar. It's really bad. And to illustrate what a heating system failure looks like in minus 30 Celsius, Russia is mostly connected by trains, because connecting such a huge country with roads is, they're doing it slowly, but it's very, very expensive and time consuming. So rail is the main transportation system in Russia. What if there's minus 30 outside and the rail heating, the train heating fails? It's gonna be minus 30 inside the train. And as you can see, all of the people are wearing their jackets. It's not going to help you much. If it's minus 30 and you're going to spend 10 hours traveling via rail, you are screwed. And they're going to fix it, because if you're in the middle of Siberia in this train, where are you going to fix it? You're going to drive to Moscow or St. Petersburg and fix it there. So I wouldn't want to be one of these people. Now, my friends, I'll talk about something that should motivate the European nations to actually stand up for Ukraine and send everything they have. Because Russia launched missiles from North Korea up to 460 kilometers inside Ukraine. What it means that North Korea has supplied Russia with ballistic missiles that have the range of, 800 kilometers. I'll read you the report. Looking at the 460 kilometer range, when the max for that system is 900 kilometers. 900. And North Korea has many of those missiles because they have been stockpiling them in case of war with South Korea, which never happened, so now they're sending them to Russia. And Germany doesn't want to send their Taurus missile. Well, Russia is getting everything similar to the Taurus missile from North Korea. Right now, as we speak, Ukrainian children, women, elderly are dying because of these missiles, and Germans are thinking in their cozy little homes that we don't want to send the Taurus missile. Now, if you're German, you shouldn't feel any guilt, but please pressure your government. And now, my friends, for the last news, I'll give something for the pro-Russian mindset of people living in the West. People living in Canada, United States, Germany, whatever, Western Europe, who are fanboys of Russia, fanboys of Putin. They like strong men, they like mafia state. They like these old, kind of old school looking, authoritarian guys. Now Putin has given these guys a possibility. If these guys want to move to Russia, all they gotta do is fight for Russia and they get a citizenship. They get a passport. So Putin has officially confirmed it. Now it's a possibility for all of these people to move back to Russia if they like Russia so much. Now, if they like Russia so much but don't want to live there, then that's hypocrisy in my eyes. I would truly suggest that all of the pro-Russian people living in Western Europe and in NATO countries should move to Russia. I truly think so. They should go because then they are happy because they get to live in a country they idolize. And the rest of the NATO countries are happy because we don't like pro-Russian people. So it's a win-win situation in my eyes. And Putin is now enabling this. Now, my friends, I'll do my favorite part of the video, butchering of the Patreon names with my Estonian pronunciation. Now, if you are in Patreon, shoot me a direct message because I answer all of them daily. If you want to talk to me, Patreon is the best way. Simon Karabela, Jochen Kraves, Kurtis Vallake, Peter G, Don Hogart. Thank you to these 5 people for being a security net for me, helping me aid Ukraine more efficiently. Until my next video, my friends, which will be tomorrow, Slava Ukraini, and bye-bye.